Doing incredibly well. I was just telling the story of how this all came together. We met one of your founding engineers on the train. We got the team involved. You put out a video the next week, and then we had to put the coverage out. And now you're here.
I know it's been a quick turnaround. It's great to be on. Good to see you.
Pleasure's all mine, my friend. Look, I'd love a little bit of intro background so that we can get into the grit of like all things legal. As boring as that might sound to other people, it's actually a profitable business, which is why we're in the game of startups. Come on, please, Gus, give us some context.
Yeah, 100%. So just to give you a background, co-founder of a company called WilsonAI. My background is I was a lawyer at Clifford Chance, but did engineering originally at Oxford. And my co-founder, Alex, he was a quant trader and researcher at DE Shaw. What we do is we automate workflows for in-house legal teams. So you're talking, reviewing documents. The AI does 90% of the work, and then the lawyers will sign that off at the end.
I love it. Coming from a background in engineering and applying that to legal, where the hell does that come into it?
You're so right. I mean, it's funny. It's very unusual actually to go from something like engineering into law. I've always thought that the law is an incredibly prestigious profession and it's extremely important to society. And therefore, but one thing that's interesting is it's been pretty untouched by technology for so long. Lawyers aren't known for their ability to adopt it. We're seeing that change massively. So it's an extremely exciting time with AI for what you can really do in legal and starting to see lawyers really leaning on it very heavily, where previously they might not have done.
Meet your co-founder, Alex. How did that come about? A quant trader meets someone in legal typically isn't the best of things, right? Maybe it's that internal Chinese wall that has been battered down and like he's probably in trouble. But I'm guessing it wasn't that when applying it to the context of what Wilson does.
Yeah, no, you're right. We actually got accepted into an accelerator program called Entrepreneurs First.
Hmm.
It's a great program where they take people from technical backgrounds, but also with specific domain expertise. When I met Alex there, I was blown away with how fast paced he is. He can build things so quickly.
We
And we
love
were jumping
someone
onto
that's
calls
on
with
a
customers, he'd
quick
come out.
cadence. We like someone that moves at speed.
Yeah, exactly. You could jump into a customer call one morning, they'd suggest something, Alex would have a mock up the next day, we could run through with them. It was awesome. And I found we really accelerated by working together.
I love it. He's moving on those SF timelines faster than SF, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly.
What
Yeah.
was that?
Uh,
I'm assuming your time at EF was part of that co-founder or co-matching relationship that they do. Was it that?
yeah, you're right. It's a bit like Love Island for founders. So
What's
you
it
go
like?
on
I've
and
heard great things. We're looking forward to getting the EF team on the show. But give me your thoughts. What
yeah.
was that process like for you?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's extremely intense and it's very high variance. So during that process, there's obviously a ton of pressure to meet the person that you'll be working together with for a long time period going forwards. There's a lot of extremely talented people in the room, so it's very intense. It's extremely fast paced. The great thing about EF is they support you in how to build a really fast paced and generation defining company. So they really help you set your sights right at the top.
I love it. How long did that process take of like this marriage to Alex and finding the the actual problem that you wanted to solve together? Was it as
Mm,
simple as you just clicked, or in reality was it slightly
mm.
more complicated?
So it was around a 3 to 4 week period where what we did is we'd start working together. We'd each work with different co-founders, and then when Alex and I worked together, we found we moved much quicker, got in front of customers, and started hearing what their problems were, and that was really what drove us down the path to what we're building today. Understanding that in-house lawyers are often completely swamped with tasks that actually AI can help with massively. Super exciting now to have built the product, have it in market, have people using it. That's been a big change.
What's the speed of going from like meeting Alex to product being out in the market? Is it 8 months,
Yeah.
give or take?
No, shorter actually. Yeah. I would say what happened was we did sort of this 12-week team building. Then we went out in San Francisco for another 3 months, did an initial pre-seed fundraise. And we had our first customers coming on board at that point. So it would have been within about 4 months or so that one starting getting your first customers. And then we did a full proper launch. Those customers are often like design partners. So you're working hand in hand with them to build the product just for what they need.
Clear. All right, let's get into the product a little bit. Obviously, legal is typically seen as this old man's boring business. We're obviously changing that at Wilson AI, right? The crux of what Wilson does, can you explain that in simple terms? I know we touched on it briefly a couple of minutes before,
Yeah.
but get down to the simplicity of it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so what you would normally turn to a lawyer for, Wilson will get you 80 to 90% of the way there, about 10 to 100 times quicker. That's how I would describe it. And then maybe to go into more detail, be like you're reviewing a contract, you need comments in that and track changes. Wilson can get the first pass done to 90%. You then would hand it over to your lawyer, do additional checks. Or maybe you've got 50 documents, you need to understand the terms in all of them. Normally that would take per document at least half an hour to go through every single one. Wilson can do it in 10 seconds. You can go through, look at everything, and then do the review. So it really massively speeds up your pace of getting contracts agreed, which funnily enough, like the thing that people may get excited about is that's how you book revenue. You've got to sign the contract to get your revenue. So Wilson speeding that up makes a massive difference for businesses.
Do you actively look at that metric, or when you call customers, do you ask them like, what is the speed that you're operating at, of how you could actually book calls and then as a result, book rev?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So you'll see often, it's not uncommon, depends on how big their counterparties are, but people could be spending anything from 2 weeks to 3 months on their contracting process. If you can get the turns done 90% quicker, you often book the revenue much faster. And that's what we focus on. It's one of our big ROI measures with the customers we're working with.
All right, I know we talked about this, previously. We've had an offline conversation around this, but like when we look at the incumbents of the space of the AI legal space at the moment, your Harveys as an example, Legora as another one in Europe. How do you position yourself, or against that, or underneath that currently? Because it feels like everything's to play for. You're moving at a pace that is considerably quicker than 5, 10, 15 years ago when it comes to startups. How do you begin to compete, or do you even not look at it as competition?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the market here is massively wide open. Most lawyers still don't have a tool in place. And what we're seeing is it's Wilson's UX and multi-document workflows that lawyers really like. So what that means is it's super easy to get started. They can hit Wilson and they understand how to use it within 5 minutes. And then if they're producing a suite of, say, 6 documents, the fact the chat interface isn't just like stuck inside Word, Wilson can produce like a whole bank of documents, redline them all, give you comparisons, draft emails. We found lawyers find that very powerful. They can get the agent to go further than with other tools on the market.
How have you thought about designing that UX? Is it sitting with lawyers, thinking deeply about, you like this in this area, this chat functionality needs to operate like this, like almost as a forward deployed lawyer?
It is like, I wish I had my co-founder Alex here. I think he's rewritten the UX. It must be 8 to 10 times based on feedback. So it's been very iterative. We keep making changes, being like, does that make it easier to use? And then we'll be continually doing this until it's so simple you can just touch it and it does everything you want instantly. We love it. Making it really simple. It's very hard. It's that once you get it good, it seems so simple, but it's actually very hard to do. And we spent a ton of time working on that.
Do you think chat is the medium that lawyers are going to spend time in, or do you feel that voice moving forward is actually where they can better articulate themselves?
That's a great question. I think the chat interface is extremely powerful, particularly when you're dealing with large quantities of text. Also, lawyers tend to formulate their thoughts often, at least the lawyers we work with, transactional commercial lawyers, they do formulate their thoughts in thorough emails, thorough instructions to other lawyers, and then thorough documents. That's really well placed for the chat interface. I wouldn't rule out voice down the line, but nonetheless, the vast majority of legal work's carried out with actual written text, and I think we'll see that continue.
Do you think WilsonAI over time is going to become its own lawyer, and so you could sort of riff with these, but the clients of the product can actually, the customers of the product can riff with Wilson on like, actually, is this a good idea? Is this not? Can I reference this? Can I not reference that? Or does it just do that already?
Yeah, you're actually saying that already. So often we even when negotiating our contracts, we'll be using Wilson, understanding where we should position it. So it's fine. Yeah, so I do a lot of our contract negotiations. I've got Wilson in the loop as well. And we're seeing more and more teams doing that. It's certainly like having an additional pair of eyes on something. A lot of people consider it like having a junior where you can ask them to do a range of tasks for you and you review their work to see if you agree. But it's a massively increases leverage for lawyers.
That younger talent, those associates that obviously exist within law firms, and lawyers as a whole have always operated on a hourly basis or hourly cost model, right? Does this feel like it's disrupting that at the same time as also providing overwhelming amounts of value?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's a conflict between if you're charging by the hour and using tools that massively reduce the amount of time it takes to do tasks. One thing we have seen that's very interesting from law firms is that they can view it as a competitive advantage. So sometimes they're saying, well, if a lease review usually takes 2 weeks and I can do it in 2 days and all my competitors still take 2 weeks, then all of the customers are going to come to me and say, can you review my lease? Because you're much quicker. I think that's an interesting framing from the law firms, but I certainly think the billable hour is increasingly out of place as a way to price for this sort of work.
But what if everyone's using Wilson at that point and everyone can move at speed? Do we not just end up in the situation we are today and the landscape of like everyone has access to, the fastest models, the fastest legal platform?
Yeah,
So what happens after that? Have you
it's
thought about that?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think what we're seeing is the pace of adoption varies, and I think the winners will be the ones who adopt these things first. So, like, we are not seeing that everyone has access into the best tools,
Hmm.
and therefore you're starting to see differences with legal providers where people who are using the best tools can provide better services more quickly, be more price competitive. Those that aren't on those tools, they're a little further behind, and I think they it will help them to catch up. Overall, once everyone's on the tools, I think what you'll see is the overall quality of service will be like much faster, higher quality, and cheaper for the people paying for their legal services.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. Obviously, Wilson is sort of like pushed towards legal counsel, in-house legal counsel, right? How does that differ from like external counsel? Can you explain that a little bit for me?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I guess one of the big differences with in-house counsel is obviously they're inside a business. They're often very close to the business decisions. So that means that they'll be taking more commercial calls, viewing things extremely commercially. External lawyers, often more specialist. What's interesting is we started off with in-house counsel because we found that their incentives for automating their work are absolutely perfect. So what that means is, if you're an in-house lawyer and you can do 10 times more work, your sales team absolutely love you, your CEO is promoting you, it's super exciting. Then we saw because there was such great adoption there, we're actually seeing external lawyers saying, wow, that would also help us to sell better into those teams as well.
Ah, clear. That makes a little more sense. So you're superpowering the internal teams, which makes that company better overall. Everyone's happier internally versus externally, where they could be seen as like almost a competitor.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, externally, it's interesting. I think it's table stakes now when you're pitching for work as an external
Hmm.
law firm to be saying, like, I'm as efficient as every other lawyer you're speaking to because I've got these tools. But we always started out with the client themselves, where we were seeing really strong adoption and pressure from senior leadership to make sure they're using AI to get efficiencies as much as they can.
I saw you put out a hell of a launch video. It's like I love the backdrop of kind of East London in the background. You had the walkie-talkie and everything. And like, how did the sizzle go? Like, was it a good feedback from the market? Did you get some a
Yeah,
lot of inbound?
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Yeah, it went extremely well, actually. We were delighted. I think it's just about to cross kind of 1 million impressions across the launch, which is pretty exciting. We definitely put some work into that. We just wanted to be able to convey to people the difference that what we're seeing in Wilson and this public launch, making it available. We were seeing a ton of people reaching out saying, can I test out the tool? And we were very excited to be able to put it out there and allow people to come straight on. It's been a ton of sign-ups, both from smaller businesses, but also larger enterprise. So yeah, my calendar's currently absolutely rammed, but it's good to get to spend some time with you too.
Oh, we appreciate the time. What I want to know, right, is do you think this attention marketing works for the context of your business?
I mean, I think one thing that's really interesting about that is it's super important to be in front of the right stakeholders and get to talk to them. That said, I mean, what we do off this is we actually jump on calls, onboard, train people, do a lot of white glove. But it's really nice for people to be able to experience when you see sometimes people, some of the tools out there, there'll be a lot of marketing around them, but it's actually pretty hard to understand what they can do, where the limitations are, and where the advantages are. We're making it very easy for people to see how they can get value out of Wilson. And then on top of that, we provide the training, the onboarding, the tips for enterprise. So I think it works really well to combine both the sort of snappy videos that are exciting with also the in-person and training for people.
What have you and Alex figured out in all of this that no one else has? And that to raise a pre-seed at 1.7 million USD, you must know something or must have an inkling of something that other people just don't understand because of your backgrounds. What is that?
Yeah, so I think
I don't
one
want you to
thing
give
that
me the secret
we've
sauce, but like give me a flavor of it.
Yeah, of course. I think one thing that we're lucky to understand really well is from Alex's perspective is being able to build an exceptionally easy to use and fast AI product, which I think you may see chat that that's sort of like easy, becoming easier and easier to do. It actually remains extremely hard to
Hmm.
build such a good product. And so Alex's expertise in that, combined with my understanding of lawyers' pain points and their business structure, what are the real incentives for lawyers and for businesses? And what are the points that really are painful? Why is it that existing AI tools that do contract review people have struggled with so much? one thing that really helps is if you've actually been really deep and done a lot of contract reviews yourself. I think we're very lucky to be able to combine Alex's ability to create an incredible product with my domain expertise in legal. Yeah.
I we love it when a plan comes together, right? And it feels like Wilson is like at that point. You've obviously scaled the team out more than just two of you. How big is it right now?
Yeah, so on our side, there's around four of us that we're doing full time. We have a number of consultants and people we work with fractionally as well. We keep the core team really lean. We think that makes us move the fastest. And one thing we're doing that's interesting is we're very AI native. So we use AI for a big range of different processes. There's lots of like automated monitoring systems. A lot of what we're doing, we're trying to leverage AI to allow us to do as much as possible with a really small team.
How do you deal with that complicated context window that must have to
Yeah,
exist
it's a good
in
point.
legal? Like, what have you figured out there? Is it that you're able to use agents to continuously check?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a range of context management options the team have enabled. Obviously, they combine things like RAG. We also have things like grep or regex running. Depending on the size of the document, we take different approaches into segmentation, summarization, and then give the agent the option to go into different levels of detail. So you might put in a longer document, it would have a summary of each point, and then when it identifies that it's in clause 10, it then goes and reads the full clause 10. But then that's how you're managing it. So sort of concertinaing between the different layers of context.
Is it 100% accurate all of the time, or are we at 99.9% basically right now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not none of these tools are 100% accurate all of the time. So what we do is we combine deterministic methods, which would be 100% accurate. And things like I mean, a really simple way of thinking about it is like the equivalent of having a control F in your document. That is accurate when it goes and finds something. But then what we tend to see is people combine that with then obviously the human checks as the last step. That's why it saves 90%, but not 100% of the time. It's worth mentioning as well, of course, that even actual humans, of course, aren't 100% accurate as well. So we're just aiming to be as accurate as we can, and we're seeing great feedback on that.
Do you think that with Wilson, you're going to be able to not get rid of, but superpower the associate? So actually, legal teams can run leaner as well.
I mean, absolutely, I think it's much more about augmentation than getting rid of people. So we're seeing that often the real power users in Wilson are more junior members of the team. They're the
Is that
fastest to
because they
adopt
just know
tools.
how
Yeah.
to use the tools?
And they are also the people doing these tasks. So you'd say, if someone's really going through 50 contracts, they're the one who's done that process a lot of times. They understand how to use it and they see the value so quickly. What's interesting is it means that that person can do a ton more and move up the value chain more quickly. So you can move from like identifying risky clauses to negotiating them more quickly, which is really exciting because I think actually picking out the risks is only a small part of the process. Understanding why they're risks and then negotiating them, that's the more exciting bit I think that most lawyers join to do the job for. And it's great to see people being able to do that earlier on in their career.
What does a good contract look like with Wilson? Have you figured out? Can I just like get in get in chat with it and sort of sit there and go like make this look like a perfect contract?
That's a very nuanced question, and I guess this is maybe a bit loyally of me, but I guess the answer is it depends. But a good contract, I would say, is something that's really fits the commercial circumstances extremely accurately, and is also really easy to understand and clear. You don't want fluff or irrelevant items in there. It should just only cover what you need and fit the circumstances well.
I could see the lawyer in you. I could see why you're built for this. Do you get to bring the flavor of engineering to this still? It's not just always Gus in lawyer mode.
Yeah, a little bit, which is kind of fun. So obviously I use tools like Cursor, a range of other AI tools and part of the build, but we have got an exceptionally strong engineering team. So they do take the lead there. I do most of the stuff I'm doing is usually speaking with customers, speaking with investors, and then also helping on the product, providing the legal nuances of like where Wilson's performing the best, where we think we can improve it. Those are the things I spend the most time on, as well as just working with the team.
Do you have a favorite model behind the scenes? Are you a Gemini power user over at Wilson? Are you a Claude, or are you an OpenAI, or is it just a blend of all three? Or maybe a Grok
Yeah,
from
it's a
time to
great.
time?
Yeah, so I probably the two that I use the most are GPT and Claude, but I also do love Granola. I use that for note taking during meetings. I find that's great. That's obviously not a foundation model, but I think it's really good. Yeah, we're testing a ton of different new AI tools. We try to stay really close to that. I think it's one of the exciting things as a small team is that you can go a lot further now by using these tools. And we've had some great outputs there, and I expect that will continue.
Do you think longer term you'll end up building your own model or very fine-tuned model around legal, specific areas in legal as you bring on more customers, as you deeply understand what these contracts look like over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we certainly can look at fine-tuning models for customers and for specific circumstances. What we found so far actually is other things we're developing are adding the most value. We found a generalized system that's really powerful is what people have found we get the best feedback on, rather than like really specific fine-tuning at the moment. So we've basically found that though other techniques so far have added the most value for our customers, but we could fine-tune models, and down the line we may look into doing so.
What's difficult for Wilson right now? What's difficult for you and Wilson?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think one thing we see is we're always looking at additional research sources. I think that's a really interesting one. So at the moment, Wilson has a white list of trusted sources, maybe they're government or legislative or primary case law. But what we're always interested in is really high quality data, and starting to add that in for our customers, more bespoke data. One thing I think is interesting is we're interested in over time layering in more and more lawyers into Wilson. So you can have AI do an initial cut, but maybe we can loop you in with a lawyer or provide lawyer verified research directly through Wilson. So that's an area that I think is really interesting and fast developing. Yeah.
What is going to happen if you have Wilson on both sides of a negotiation? Is it going to start just
Yeah.
talking to itself? Is it going to have its own language, do you think, over time? Or will it always just be an augmentation to the team? Because you don't want some of that, what's going into Wilson leaking into the other person's negotiation, and then being able to prompt Wilson into, giving their ideas to them.
Yeah, it's a good point. We haven't seen any issues on that. Usually, what we see is after reviewing contracts with Wilson, usually the lawyer's still taking over and doing. Wilson might even draft a negotiation email, but usually the lawyer's still the person like pressing send and so on. So Wilson's not interacting head to head directly on both sides. So that's still currently there's kind of like an air gap between the two instances of Wilson if both people are on it. Interested though, yeah, be interesting to see how it works, sort of AI head to head in negotiations.
Have
I think
you
that's
found a
as yet
situation
undertone.
where that has happened for Wilson yet, where it's maybe you versus Harvey?
We have seen some examples where we've certainly been tested head to head against other tools, and seen really good feedback, particularly against like the incumbents. And often older companies that it's hard for them to be able to stay at the same pace as a smaller, leaner team. So we've seen some really good feedback there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Imagine that. We're going to have like legal battles before the legal battles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a great time. What's the big play here, right? You've taken on venture capital. There's obviously a larger vision you have for the future of, legal, of in-house teams, of law. What did the VCs buy into here?
Yeah, I think the really interesting play in this space is that legal services spend is enormous, and I think it's really interesting now that you're starting to see the opportunity to provide much cheaper, faster, and higher quality legal services, not necessarily just software. I think that's an extremely exciting opportunity because it will allow businesses to turn to AI-enabled providers that can provide full legal services for them. I think that's an extremely interesting opportunity. And I think that's where in the future there's potentially a ton of potential. But right now, that those AI-enabled providers are often law firms, but you're starting to see the people building the AI also looking at that space. I think that's really exciting.
Also, OpenAI is looking at that space as well, or Claude is looking at that space as well, as you're building
Um,
your own presence in it.
I think not so much OpenAI and Claude. Obviously, a lot of they look at a big range of spaces, more consumer less than B2B, although they're moving a bit towards that. And the legal vertical is a little different. I think it's more companies like Wilson that are generally looking at targeting the legal space all the way up into the services end of the space as well.
Do you have a favorite customer that you'd love to, start using Wilson? Is it almost like the British government? Is it the European Parliament that you want in-house counsel using Wilson?
That's a great question, actually. We do. I mean, we have favorite existing customers, but I mean, they're all our favorites. And we obviously do go out into market.
Let me
I won't
rephrase
name
that.
specific customers
Is
here.
there an
Yeah.
aspirational customer that you sit there and go, actually, this team is going to be
Yeah.
amazing with Wilson?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, one of the things we've recently done is we've signed like a large bank, which I won't name, but what we're seeing is it's really exciting for us to be starting moving up into the higher risk, more regulated entities. That's really where you're seeing really challenging and high risk legal issues that are extremely valuable. It's very exciting to see Wilson start getting deployed into those because we're moving right the way up into the sort of most high stakes work that there is. I think that's fantastic, and it's natural that we sort of started with smaller ticket items where it's really appropriate to use AI. And then as the AI gets better and better, you can move right the way up into those high value tickets. I think that's exciting.
So in short, you have taken a first principle approach to building a legal AI platform because of the engineering background and the application of law.
That's yeah, exactly right. Yeah, we've done it right from the start, and we're still going. We're still, I mean, for us, it's still extremely early. There's a long way to go. Um, yeah, we'll be heads down for a long time to keep building this until it does exactly what our customers want.
What's next on the roadmap for you?
Yeah, so I mean, off the launch, we've had a ton of inbound demand, which has been extremely helpful. We're currently gathering feedback
Mm-hmm.
off that and using that to improve Wilson. Starting to see Wilson's quality of contract reviews getting really, really high, and therefore we're now starting layering in a few more different aspects around that. So whether or not that's additional abilities for Wilson to do more negotiation, more signature of documents, there'll be a bunch more things coming. And I know I mentioned it before, but some of those research sources as well, we'll be adding more and more there to increase the quality of data for our customers.
Gus, before we let you go, one of the things we love to do on the show is ask founders, who are their bastions that they look up to in this space, in the context of, building companies, etc. Who is it for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, obviously, I mean, really admire some of the people who've started marketplace businesses before. Sort of Brian Chesky, obviously, his founder mode talk, really awesome. And actually,
What does
interestingly,
that
maybe
what
on
does
a
that
more
mean to
personal,
you, founder mode, by the way?
I think what it means is that if you have founded a business, you have real interest in everything it does end to end, because it feels like maybe your baby, as it were. So it
Mm-hmm.
means that you really want to be in the detail of everything and take it all the way through. Sometimes you can see professional executives that are brought in, and they may be a little less close to it. It's less of their passion, and therefore they won't go into as much detail. So I think really that's how we view founder mode is like caring an extremely large amount about the quality of the output for your customers and the quality of everything you do as a business. I think Brian Chesky thought that was fantastic. And then also from a personal perspective, maybe some of the people that I worked with actually, I loved my career in law initially and was really inspired by the team there. There was a fantastic team dynamic, worked with alongside some amazing people. And I think I learned a lot about what it means to really kind of care about and support your clients there. Something we try and carry through into all of our customers today. So
Love it. Gus, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for the time. We're going to let you get back to solving the world's legal problems. We'll see you soon.
yeah, awesome. Cheers, Raj. Take care.
Ciao.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.